Welcome to In Honor Of, a show for veterans, about veterans, and for veterans and their families. Today, it's my distinguished pleasure to have a great panel here of guests that have all agreed to come on and talk a little bit about their time in the military and who they are and what's happened since they left the military. But before we get started, this is also a show that's dedicated to Black History Month, okay? And we're very honored to have our African American brothers here sit with us and talk about their time in the service. And I always remember when I went into the military, we were told, you're not black, you're not white, you all bleed red. And I think pretty much the same thing has been told across the board here. There was a camaraderie that built up during my time in the military that negated all of the stuff that you read about in the media of what was going on in the country. Keith, let's start with you. Introduce yourself.
I'm retired Staff Sergeant Keith Millett. Spent 30 years in the military before I retired without any time off. I've been overseas a couple of times. I've always been asked the question, if I had it to do all over again, would I do it? My answer is always yes. It doesn't matter what branch I'm in. If I could do it all over again, I wouldn't mind doing it again. I came up very quickly in ranks, and I went down very quickly in ranks as well. I don't know what it was. Was it me, or was it something I've done? And I always look back on it, and I can't see anything. But, you know, everything was there for me. As long as I'm doing the right thing, everything was there for me. And, you know, I'm proud to be an American. I'm proud to be a veteran of the United States Army. And I wouldn't change anything if I had to do it all over again. Everyone that I've served with of all types of nationality, we always made each other feel like brothers. Not comfortable, but feel like brothers, where we could sit down and we could shower together. We can tell different stories about our home life together, and we don't ever have to be ashamed. And when we come back home, 20% of those guys you'll still keep in touch with. The rest of them, you'll always remember them, never forget them.
That's right. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Joe.
My name is Joseph Skinner. I'm a native Staten Islander. I played sports in all types of sports in Staten Island: baseball, basketball, football, soccer, you name it, I done it. 67, I joined the Marine Corps. By December 67, I joined it in July. By December, I was in Vietnam with the Marine Combat Unit. I also advanced in rank rather quickly. I was called platoon sergeant at 19 in charge of 57 men. And I wanted to come home, so what I was taught, I taught everyone else. Like Keith said, it was a camaraderie. We were a brotherhood, and we will always remain a brotherhood. I see people, you know, tap on my car window, and I said, hello. When my father said Simba Fi, he see my bumper sticker. It's a brotherhood that will never be broken. I am honored and truly here to be here with the rest of the veterans, and with that, I'm good.
Wesley.
My name is Wesley Thomas. Joe Skinner and myself, we grew up together. Same public school, PS 18, Porterton High School. I joined the Marine Corps in 1965, and I did Vietnam from 1966 to 1968. I was part of the 1st Marine Air Wing. They formed what they call an Air Mobile Reactionary Force. I arrived in Vietnam October 24th, 1966. 2 months later, I was on a search and rescue operation with other Marines, 2 months in country, and this took place Christmas Eve of 1966. I was awarded a letter of appreciation from Commanding General L.B. Robertshaw, which I received in formation in April, I believe it was April 27, 1967, for serving in along with other Marines, doing the search and rescue because a plane had crashed in a populated village in the Ho Vang District, Republic of Vietnam, and we had to go out there and look for and search for survivors. And it was Christmas Eve while everybody's back home enjoying the festivities for the holidays and whatnot, and I was 19 years old. And I'm also a published author. I have a book titled A Hard Decision.
We're going to talk about that in a little while. Richie, how about you?
Hi, my name is Richie Green. I was in the military, in the Army from 1957 to 1960. I left there as a private first class, 82nd Airborne. I was with, I started out at Fort Dix. From Fort Dix to Fort Gordon, I went to school in Fort Gordon, Georgia for signal. From there, I went to Fort Bragg and I joined the 82nd Airborne. I actually joined the 5th Airborne Signal Battalion, 18th Corps, and from there to the 82nd. From the 82nd, I went to Germany. I traveled from Germany to France. I was down in a place called Fontenay, France. From Fontenay to Cap-Sous, France. I was all over. I was down in Cannes, I was in Paris, Bordeaux, all over the place. I was in Germany, I was in Munich, Bad Kitzingen, Bad Tolz. And I didn't see any action anywhere. But when I was in France, I seen where they had plenty of action. A lot of them came back really messed up. And I mean really messed up. It kind of psyched me a little bit, you know. And that's my military history.
Bob?
Robert Mira, United States Army, retired first sergeant. Grew up in Queens. I served 24 years in the military, retired. Very proud to say I was awarded the Legion of Merit when I retired for my whatever I did for the service. Traveled all over the world. Migrated places, Europe, Korea, all over the United States, Germany. I love my military service, and I came back from military service. I got back here to New York, and I joined the VFW, Anderson Lagnall Post 5090, where I've been the commander for the last 12 years. And all my veteran brothers here call me Bob. They don't call me Robert, they call me Bob. So I'm just happy to be here with my fellow brothers, and we are brothers, you know. It's one place that's very unique is to be in the military. I don't care where you go in life. If you meet another military guy, you can start a conversation off in 2 seconds, and you just, doesn't matter what service you're in, you all have the same thing that's in common, and that's, you know, serving together. And very proud to have done that, and like my other brother here said, I'd do it all over again. I wear a shirt right now on the back of this T-shirt. It says I took an oath once to defend and protect this country, and I would do that again.
Jim?
Yes, it's Burton James Smith. I was a specialist in the United States Army. I did most of my duty in Thailand. I served in Vietnam, TDY, and like one of the fellows said, I didn't see action there, but I saw all the body bags and the guys that were seeing action. And that was something to see, and it was an experience for me. I enjoyed the military. I enjoyed the travel. I've been places that I guess that I've never been before if it hadn't been for the military. I entered the service in Fort Knox, Kentucky, did my basic, did my AIT there, and then from there to Korat, Thailand, where I spent most of my time. It was an adventure, like some of the fellas had said, the brothers said. Yeah, I think I would do it all over again. And that's about it.
Yeah. Well, before we go over to Paul Dietrich, let me say welcome home, brothers.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nicole's Paul Dietrich. Paul, I'll give you the floor for a while.
Okay. One of the things we wanted to talk about a little bit was some of the benefits and advantages that you may have been able to take advantage of when you got back or during the service. And I'll give an example of myself. I was able to get my master's degree through the United States Army, and it cost me nothing other than my time, and it was difficult because I was doing it while I was working and while I was in the reserves, so it was a a difficult proposal. But the fact of the matter is the education was free. The other thing that I have available to me is I have the GI benefit, so that if I wanted to go back to school again, I could do it. Of course, I've gotten to the point where I said, I don't think there's anything more that I need to go back to school for, but the point is, it's there if you need it. Keith, can you talk a little bit about that with you?
Yeah, I first got home, I wasn't sure what was out there for me. And so I joined the VFW and American Legion in Staten Island. That's when I started finding out a whole lot of information. I thought that education-wise, my education was done. I'm too old. I'm out of the military yet now. And then I sat there and realized that the benefits that I did not use were still there for me. When I got back home, the first thing I did was took all my platoon, and we took a military bus, unauthorized, and we went up to the VA hospital.
It had to be authorized.
And I forced every last one of them to register at the VA. I didn't want any excuses. I didn't want them doing it on their own time, and not realizing that there was still a lot of things I needed to know. And I'm starting to use up the military education that they have now.
Joe, how about you?
As far as the benefits are concerned, I use the VA extensively for medical benefits. I was quite sick for a while, and I almost bought the farm in January 2014, but my friends came on New Year's Day and got me and brought me to the VA, and since then I progressed where I'm at now, where I'm in full health. I got my strength back. I'm also like Colonel Dietrich. I used the VA benefits when I got home during my BA in accounting from Baruch College. And I used that when I was at Daytop Village. I was assistant treasury manager. And also I belonged to the American Legion with Colonel, and also along the VVA Chapter 421, Thomas J. Torrey Chapter, Vietnam Veterans of America. And right now we're sponsoring a program for Cars for Kids. We're sending a couple of kids to Ohio to race in the soapbox derby. And we have to build a car, which is funny. And a couple of people are going to, our logo, Chapter 421, is going to be on the car, and it's going to be in the race. And I think that's phenomenal. We also do a lot of work with the Veterans Helping Veterans program. We donate to different organizations, and Silla Foundation we work with, it's just everybody we work with. Tunnels to Towers, it's just a great organization. And through, and I'm Captain of the Color Guard, and I carry the American flag. And you talk about my heart bursting. Every time I pick up that flag, I'm so proud to be an American. It just, sometimes it brings tears to my eyes, but I carry that flag with pride. And with that, right now I'm done.
Wesley?
When I was discharged from the military, I didn't know anything about any GI Bill, benefits or anything like that. The only thing that I remember is that they said, when you get discharged, go to your local county clerks and register your documents, your DD-214,
Absolutely.
and any other awards that you have. This way, if you ever lost them, you can always go there and get a copy. So that's one of the things that I did. And one afternoon, I was on Hyatt Street by the St. George, and I was walking up the hill, and this man approached me, and he said, "Are you a veteran?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Did you serve in Vietnam?" So I said, "Yes." He says, "Well, are you using the GI benefits?" I didn't even know what the heck he was talking about. He said, "You can get free education, you can go to school." So I enrolled in the college of Staten Island, and I'm glad that I did, because there's a lot of things that I didn't know of and wasn't aware of as far as the racial injustice that was taking place. Because when I was over in Vietnam, there's a lot of stuff going on back here, what we call back in the world.
Yeah.
A lot of dissension, separation and stuff like that. And myself being over there in '66, other veterans were coming over later. They came over with attitude, black power, they didn't want to get haircuts and stuff like that. And they had the militancy about themselves. And those of us that were there prior to them coming, we couldn't understand why they were the way they were, lashing out and acting out their anger and their frustration, because they experienced what we didn't experience because they just left home to come to where we were. And the fact of the matter was that a lot of them were drafted, and they didn't want to be there. And so I did my time. So when I was discharged, I came home. I didn't know that I had psychological baggage with me. I thought everything was hunky-dory. But eventually it caught up with me in 1988. I'm sharing this with everybody. I attempted suicide.
Oh, geez.
I thank God that I'm here to be a vessel
God.
and a spokesperson to let other folks know that it's a reason why I'm still here. Because there was times that people would look at me and they'd see a smiling, happy-go-lucky guy, but I was being
Carrying
eaten.
inside.
It was eating me up like a cancer from the inside out, and I just couldn't take it. I had two failed marriages. I'm happily married now because the person I'm with now understands. My daughter from my previous marriage, my first marriage, because I've been married, this is my third and final, she lost out on GI benefits because I didn't know anything about GI benefits as far as benefits from getting from the medical center.
Right.
I didn't find out about this stuff until 2000. My suicide attempt was in 1988.
The important thing here is that you're able to tell this to the public because there are literally thousands of guys and girls out there that could fall into the same category with something that's eaten away at them on the inside, and you don't want it to reach that point where it explodes and you destroy everything. So I'm honored that you would tell the story on the air.
Yeah.
I mean, it's to help people.
Yeah, because before I was just too ashamed to.
Right.
But now that I'm, being treated, I'm in the system. I don't mind sharing it. There's no shame in my game.
That's right.
No.
Because if I can reach out and touch and help another veteran, who in turn can help their family, because when a veteran suffers, the family suffers. When the family suffers, the community suffers. And when the community suffers, the whole nation suffers. Anybody that served in the military, I have the utmost honor and respect for them because I have uncles that served during World War II, never received anything from the government because they didn't know anything about it. They dealt with racial segregation, all of these different things, and it bothers me to my heart today that when I sit down and I try to talk to veterans on how to, get their entitlement, and they don't act on it, I can't sleep at night because I want to do as much as I can for them while I'm still here, providing them with the information. Because somebody was kind enough to share that information with me, and because I had an open mind at the time, I was able to digest it and I was able to get the help. And it made me a better person today. I
And it
look forward to
still
each,
is.
and I always wear something because I am proud to say that I joined the Marine Corps because that's something that I always wanted to do from a child watching the war movies on TV.
Richie,
Hi. I joined the military in 1957. I could say that most likely my story would be a lot more tamer than the rest of these guys because I went through a period of, it was actually peace. It was after the Korean War, and I got out just before the Vietnamese War. But I also learned that my outfit was in Vietnam at the time anyway. And I was down in Fort Bragg. I started off in Fort Dix, New Jersey. I took my training in Fort Dix. And from Fort Dix, I was sent to Fort Gordon, Georgia, which I went into training again for Signal Corps training, electronics. And then from there, Fort Bragg, where I went airborne. I was with the 18th Airborne Corps, 50th Airborne Signal Battalion, and from there to the 82nd. Being with the 82nd, I went to, I was in the process of going to Germany and got transferred over into France, in which I became a telephone surveyor. I went around to the different posts and I surveyed telephone systems in each post, and because most of these posts, like in France and parts of Germany, were nothing but little mud holes. And so they had to put in new telephone systems in all of them. So I would go on a post and we would line up a system for the post, and we move on to the next post, things like that. So I moved around a lot. As a guy, I went in, I was 17 years old. I weighed 122 pounds. I was the littlest guy. As a matter of fact, when I went into the recruiting office to sign up, the guy chased me out of there because he thought I was a little kid playing with him. But that's how small I was. And even when I went airborne, when I jumped, they had to put a bag in front of me with weight on it because when I jumped, the bottom of the chute would swing. But I was the littlest guy. Everybody wanted to take care of the little guy. I hung around with older guys. The one thing good I could truthfully say is in the military, I had just as much money as everybody else. So when we went to places, I was just just as good as anybody else, But getting back, after I got out in 1960. I was like I said, I was in France, and the French was really getting done up in Vietnam because I seen them guys come back. And I mean, when I say I seen them come back, they come back and they didn't look good at all. I mean, I was wondering who was winning the war over there the way them guys was coming back. So they dropped out of it basically. But getting back here again, after I came home, now I was a person that joined the military. I didn't have a high school diploma. I quit school. But they were taking people in at the time that if you quit school. And they sent me to school. I quit school, and the first thing they did was send me to school. But when I got out, I went to Washington Irving High School. I got my high school diploma. And from there, I did a lot of local jobs. I used to work for an outfit called Railway Express when they were in business. They went bankrupt, but it was a hell of an outfit. And then I started driving bus for transit. But in between all that, I was singing and doing things like that. And after I got into the bus, I decided I was going to college. I started using my GI Bill. I really wanted to study law. And then I broke it down, and I said, well, I'll be a paralegal. It's a little bit easier on me. But it all became tough for me because I was driving bus, I was singing, I was going to school, and it just got rough on me. And so I had to kind of give it up. But I would tell anybody, they were there for me if I was able to do it. I went to Brooklyn College, I went to Long Island University, and I went to a business technical school. And they stood behind me all the way. I had no problem with them at all. I went to see my representative, and things just went through with no problem. Like I say, everything for me was kind of tame. I just went through the process. Process worked for me. I'm retired from driving a bus. I retired in 1987. And I don't regret a day of it. The military has carried me through everything that I've done, because that was always the first question asked. Were you ever in the military? And if you say yes, everybody just carry you through. They'd handle it. I love it. And I would tell anybody, it's too bad that they can't take their kids and put them in the military for at least 1 year. To learn discipline, just learn how to carry yourself, period.
Learn how to get along with other people.
Other people, yes. And believe me, they'll teach you because you're all in the same boat once you get in there, And then you learn to protect the next man. If you're in a barracks and one guy messes up, the whole barracks fails. And so you learn that one guy don't mess up. I don't care who you are. How big you are, how small you are, it doesn't matter. That one guy's got to come along just like everybody else. But that's my story. Like I say, my story is tame. I've heard a lot of stories, and I know my story is tame. I could have came out worse than I did. I could have, but I didn't.
Thank God.
Yes.
Bob?
Well, talking about benefits, I have come to find that the best benefit that we all have is each other. what one vet knows and he shares with another vet, that's what gets us through a lot of different things. The VA is set up in place to assist veterans, but if you don't purge the system and learn about it, they're not going to come knocking on your door and tell you, this is what you need to do to get money, this is what you need to do to get housing. You have to know somebody who's been through it before. And when I first got back, it was tough. I was a union carpenter before I went into the military, and things got bad in the early 70s, and there was no work. So I said, well, let me try the military out, and I went in. When I got back, things were not so great again. You know, they didn't shape jobs anymore in the union. You couldn't go to the union hall and say, okay, go down here today, we got you this job. You're on your own. So I got back, I bought a house, and like Rich, you know, me and Rich and Jimmy were all in the Dan Lears, the oldies group there that did one summer night. But I did the same thing, singing here and there, working, trying to make a singing gig on a Friday after working all day long doing construction. Wasn't easy, I'll tell you. It really was an easy thing to do. Somewhere along the way, I met this, I guess he was a retired sergeant major, veteran, and he told me about this organization that would help me get my benefits, because I had gotten hurt over the course of 24 years in the military lots of times. So I met this guy, Barry Campbell, up at the VA hospital. He was there for 30 years. He's retired now. And I joined his organization and just joined it. And then eventually I was on his board, and then eventually I became the vice president of the board. And that's what I do now. I help veterans get their benefits. I've gotten well versed, like Wesley. Me and Wesley are both in the same organization. And we help people. We don't want nothing for it. We don't say, okay, a lot of them say, how much will it cost me? I said, it costs you nothing. I says, I want to do it for you. It's not, there's no cost involved. I said, if you get an award down the road, you want to just take me out to dinner or buy me a drink, hey, that's cool. But, you know, I don't want anything. It's not about money. This is not a business here. It's about helping each other. It's not easy. It's not easy when you come out. You know, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was told in a class that you have when you're getting ready to retire, transition class, you know, you're first sergeant today, and everybody says, good morning, first sergeant, good morning, this. He says, but once you walk out that gate for the last time, you're nobody again. That's what they make you believe, but you are somebody. You have a lot of experience. What I learned in my life was on the streets. I grew up, you know, University of Hard Knocks on the street, and I learned a lot there, because you learn through trials and tribulations better than a guy who has a silver spoon in his mouth. And then the rest of the learning I did was in the military. And then during the military and after, I went to college. I have an associate's degree. Never finished my bachelor's degree. Like I think you were saying, no time for it after a while. You know, you just have to move on and do other things. You know, and singing is my big interest now. That's all I do. I'm retired, and that's all I do is sing with the Dan Lears. And on my own, I do a jazz vocal show. And basically, the benefit is that, which is the best benefit, is each other. We got to help each other, and whatever Wesley knows or Joe knows, that's what helps each other out, you know. Because otherwise, you're just sitting there not knowing what to do. And VA, you know, not that I'm not going to say they blatantly want you to fail, but they don't care if you do well either. They're not going to do anything for you. They're not going to do anything for you unless you have the smarts, or somebody else has the smarts to tell you this is what you got to do. One more quick story, because it made me feel very good. I was at the VA last week. I met this lady. I was up getting my paperwork done I wear a brace, you know, most of the time on my knee. And you get an allowance for that every year. So I just told her in the elevator, I didn't know her from Adam. I said, do you happen to have a brace you wear for your knee? I see you have the cane. And she looked at me kind of funny. I said, I'm just asking because, you know, if you do, there's a benefit. You can get about $800 a year for tailoring for that brace. She says, really? I got to talk to you when I come out of this elevator. Well, she happened to be a very religious lady, so, you know, she put her hands on me, and she said a prayer. She says, it's amazing who you meet when you meet him at just the right time. And I says, no problem. I says, if I can help you anytime, you know, and I gave her one of my cards. And that's what makes you just feel good about being a veteran. You know, you're there to help other people.
James.
Yes, well, I find being a veteran is very important. Even now, not being in the military and coming home, I don't think we were treated as veterans as good as we are today.
Here, brother.
I find I get more respect. I wear my hat most of the time. And like Robert said, being a musician, I travel a lot from all over the place. And people will come up to me, they'll ask me about what you did in the military, where you served at. Then, like he just said, every now and then a military brother will come up to me and ask me about the benefits, and which I used my benefits when I got out toward my music. I'm a keyboard player, and being able to use the benefits, it taught me well. And it taught me to the point right now where I'm working, not only with the Dan Lears, which is a famous group, I'm working with Eugene Pitt and the Jive Five. And like I say, I do a lot of traveling. I meet a lot of people even now. And again, I will iterate, we get more respect now for some reason than we did when we came back home. And that's about it.
I think
Paul.
when you hear what's been said here, the biggest thing that I see is that we went where we were told to go. Some of us went in combat zones, some of us weren't sent to combat zones. But it didn't make a difference. The important thing was the guy to the right or to the left of you, or to the gal nowadays, to the right or left of you, and what you could do for them. And everyone that I've heard here is still carrying that forward in their life, trying to help other veterans. And that's admirable. But the point is, we still think that way. And it's just the way that you're taught in the military to think about the person to your right or your left, or front or back, depending upon where you are in the formation. We know how they used to do it with the little guys in the front and the big guys in the back. They don't do that anymore. But the point's still the same. It's that comradeship, it's that friendship between your buddies that carries on in your life. And it's important. So that's one of the reasons that I belong to the organizations I do. The VFW, I belong to the American Legion also. And it's through those organizations that I try to help the veterans whenever I can.
Yes, you do.
So that's the important part.
The important
One
thing-
of the things coming up here on Staten Island for veterans is on the 11th and 12th of March. We're going to have a veterans re-invite to come back to the American Legion. There's a lot of people that joined the American Legion and then for some reason got out of it. But we're trying to invite them back to rejoin the Legion. Again, membership is very important to these organizations because membership translates into political power. If you want to get additional benefits, that's one way to do it. But during those re-invites, we will have a service officer. And a service officer in the American Legion or the VFW is a person who is qualified and certified to be a service officer. They can help any veteran with the VA or with any other issues. 11th and 12th, from 9 to 4, we will be at Suspino Russo, 200 McLean Avenue. Whether you're a member or not, we're going to help you. So if you're a veteran, stop in and see us. That's when we'll be there. And the service officer will physically be there to help you.
The important thing that I'm hearing here is a sense of camaraderie that you carry with you after you leave the service.
Oh, yeah.
And the desire to help each other and to make sure that you get the most out of life that you can get. And you get the benefits that you're entitled to. And I've talked about it hundreds of times on the show. I've had family that they used the benefits, did incredible things, some of the things the VA did. I had an uncle, may his soul rest in peace, but he had macular degeneration. They were giving him treatments for his eyes that would cost on the outside $7,500 a treatment. You know, and they kept him where he kept his eyesight in his later years in life after serving. And that's a key where the organizations come in because they'll point you in the right direction, okay? And it's very important because you get to relive that camaraderie. And I was talking to Gene from the VVA, and he says, if you come to a meeting at the VVA, he says, it's not about war stories, it's about helping each other. And that's what it pretty much comes down to. And that's a very important thing, not only for you, for your family. Like Wesley said, he went through a terrible time in his life, okay? And thank God he bounced back.
Still
He
here.
bounced back and with stars, okay? And if hearing that story could prevent one person from going down that road, he's been an overwhelming success. So, Wesley, I want to ask you about your book.
Well, I graduated from the College of Staten Island, and we had to submit unanimous writings. And I didn't know what to write about because I enrolled in college in 1975, and I was discharged in 1969. And during that time, I was working full-time with New York City Transit Authority. I was married with a family. I was, joined the Marine Corps Reserves, and then I enrolled in college. I had all these things on my plate, trying to do so many things at one time. And out of this class, we had to submit anonymous writing, so I didn't know what to write about. So I said, well, maybe Vietnam. So I decided to write about 2 males and a female character, which developed into a love triangle. So I had submitted to the professor. He distributed to the other students. Every student had papers that they submitted, and they would try to figure out who wrote such and such a story. And then as I was continuously speaking with some of the other students, I said, wow, that sounds interesting. Why don't you expand it? So I just started writing. And all of these situations and creativity popped up in my head because I majored in drama in school.
Right.
I took acting classes and stuff like that. We used to do improvs and all this other stuff. So I said, well, I'll make it a love triangle where, it's a married couple. The husband goes off to war. She's expecting a baby. And during that time, things transpire, where she gets the news, because you have to read the story to get the,
Right.
the exact, gist of the information. So, I was very caught up and touched as I was writing it. I felt myself becoming very bitter and very angry, even though I developed and created these characters. But every character in this book, I created. With the dialogue and stuff like that. And, I was going through, psychological turmoil within myself. And by me writing it and putting it down on paper, it just developed. And before it even became a published book, I had joined a theater company, Ujama Black Theater. Right. And I gave the manuscript to one of the directors, and he kept telling the other actors, hey, I'm going to do Wes's play. I'm going to do Wes's play, his book, He wouldn't give it back to me. So then he says, Wes, we're going to have auditions at the Theater Horizons in Manhattan.
Yeah.
And, Playwrights Horizon. So I went, and there was people lined up. It was supposed to be a 2-hour audition. There were people lined up on the sidewalk, from the street, going up the ladder well to where they're going to have the audition. And I walked in, I had my Hard Decision jacket on, and I'm saying to myself, wow, all these people came out just to audition for my play, right? So I go upstairs, because I was part of the board, but we had to sit across and interview the people that were, auditioning. And, we had chosen our people that we wanted to become that. We even had children in the story to be our actors. And the director, he was trying to do too many projects at one time, so it fell by the wayside. So I didn't know what to do with it. So I saw an article in one of the magazines, Carlton Press Publishing.
Right.
So I called him up. I said, I told him who I was. I said, I'm a Vietnam vet. I have a manuscript. I'd like for you to take a look at it to see if it could be published. So I took it over there. They sent me a letter. There was, true to life, the dialogue. Because it was heavy dialogue, and they published it. So then I had it republished, in the 90s, but I changed the dialogue because there was a lot of, harsh language in it. And, my wife now, today, she was my editor, and we put it all together. But the thing about it, as far as the cover, the reason why my picture's on the cover of the book is because when I told the publisher what I wanted, they couldn't find Afro-American black to put
they
on.
use you.
So, no, they didn't use me. They put a black female on here with the Caucasian soldier. So when the book came back, with that, it looked nice, but she has nothing to do with the story. So my wife says, "Oh no, we're not gonna put that, let that, she has nothing to do with the story." So she looked at the wall because I had the same picture on the wall. She said, "What's wrong with that picture?" I said, "It's in black and white." She said, "Well, that's the picture that needs to go in your book." So I was on vacation on a road trip, my wife and myself, so I called the publisher up. They called me, they said, "Mr. Thomas, we got your photo. It's a nice photo, but the thing is, it's in black and white. It's not gonna match up with the color on the book." So I said, well, when I get back from my vacation, I'll find a photo restoration and have it colorized. It cost me $400 and change to have it, photo restoration colorized, but I didn't care. I went and had it done, I sent it to him, and when it came back, it
that's
came
the
back
book. Yeah.
looking like that.
The title of the
Nice.
book?
A hard decision.
Hard decision.
So it's a love triangle. I've already had radio interviews. If you go to YouTube and put in the title, you'll see you'll see a video. And then if you Google my name, you'll see some Google or YouTube. You'll see some of my interviews because I had radio interviews around the country. It's a slow process, but I'm not worried about it because I would really like to see it done as a movie.
Can I speak? It's very well written, but I'd like to touch on the subject, PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
If you were in combat, you have it. I didn't know I had it till a friend told me, Chip Ambasino, same one who told me that he asked me, what am I getting for benefits? I said, nothing. He said, are you crazy? And he walked me through the process, like used to doing now, and now I'm at 100%. But even now, 50 years later, I go to sessions once a week. 56 Bay Street, the Vet Center. They have phenomenal counselors. And a lot of people from my chapter go there. I didn't know until the Christmas party that all these people were going. Of course, you don't know. You go in, you go out. But Muriel Suarez, I'm going to give her your name. She interviewed here. Her name used to be Sosa.
Yeah, she's been on the show, I believe.
Phenomenal
Yeah, I know
counselor.
her.
She ripped me. She made me the person I am today. She took all that stuff I was holding for 40, 50 years right out. She served in the military also, in the Army, and she did 2 tours of duty in Afghanistan. But all the counselors down there are phenomenal. So if you don't think you have PTSD, you do. If you're in combat, they automatically give you 30% now. But like I said, it's a main cause, probably something that Wesley went through, feeling what he felt, holding on to stuff. I felt that way myself. It's not until I went into treatment for my PTSD that I learned that I was one messed up individual from what I seen and what happened during wartime. And when we came home, like, there was no one for us.
Right.
We now have a saying, us Vietnam vets, even as the Vietnam vets have a saying, never again will another generation of veterans be forgotten. That will never happen again. I just want to say that about PTSD. Please go find out about it.
Going further than that, my post, we have a Korean War veteran from the original live Korean War era. And he suffered from PTSD all the way from 1952. He got nothing until about 3 years ago. Till about 3 years ago. He suffered all of those years, got nothing back, had no counseling, nothing. There wasn't anything for them. And it's absurd. Every one of us that's been in combat has changed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We've changed. We're not the same people. And you've got to realize that and get there and get yourself some help. There's no reason you shouldn't be able to get there and at least get the counseling. Try to get these issues off of your head
Okay.
Agreed.
before they explode, because sooner or later they're going to explode. And you don't want to be there during that explosion.
And the truth of the matter is, no one is going to be able to help you as much as another vet, one of the
Yes.
veterans organizations, or the
Absolutely.
VA. You can go to an outside doctor, you could go to your best friend who never saw military, He'll never understand for 1 second what you went through, what's in your head, what's tearing you apart. He'll never understand. He may mean to help you, but he can't. So it is very important that you get the VA, if you get the organizations, to put everything forward to help you, because you're entitled to that help.
Roger that.
You're entitled to that help. You changed your whole life to serve this country.
Right.
And, you know, Joe and I have talked about it before. Went from being a 17-year-old driving up and down Richmond Avenue when they used to hang out in Steckman's. Okay.
Yeah, the jacket place.
A couple of months later, you're at war.
Yes.
Didn't have a clue.
You didn't have a clue.
Nope.
Okay. You went from being a young punk kid, if I will, you know,
Still a punk.
and you and you came home totally different. You know, you saw a whole different world. You saw death. As a kid, you never saw death. You went to a wake if somebody passed away in the family, but you never saw death the way it happens.
No.
There.
There. That's
One
right.
question.
When you-
We have a friend who keeps telling us that we are still in Vietnam. Was he not? No, we're not still in Vietnam. But part of us, we left there.
Exactly.
You know, but he don't understand that because he was never in the war zone. But he keeps saying, you two are still in Vietnam. No, we're not in Vietnam. But part of us are still left over in
But
Vietnam.
you still have some of the reactions that you have
Works in
from
back.
being there.
Absolutely.
I can tell you, when I came home, I drove down to Virginia because my daughter was getting married. A loud noise,
Yeah.
I jumped.
Right.
Right.
Because after you've been rocketed in water a few times, you know where that bunker is. You know where it is to get undercover. I can tell you that I felt naked driving down 95 because there was no concrete walls on either side of me to protect me.
Right.
And that's just the reality of it. I've changed.
Yeah, on that,
Good, Jim.
just one.
No, I just, from what he was saying, I fly a lot, like I said, being with a musician there, and we had snipers shooting at our plane when we took off, tucked into the air base there. And sometime even at the airports now, I look out the window. It's just what you're saying. I never forgot it. Not saying there's somebody's out there shooting at a plane now.
Doesn't matter.
But-
it's a part of you.
That's
It's
right.
part of us.
It's embedded in you.
Yes, you never forget it.
No.
We just,
Okay, Keith.
like with you guys up here, you know, we all respect each other about who we are, where we've been. Me with mine, when I first got home, it was the first time, like you said, Ed, it's the first time you ever actually saw that person get killed in front of you.
Right.
It's not always a pretty thing to see.
Never
When I
a
got
pretty
back
thing.
home, I had no idea what was wrong with me when I got home. I thought everything was okay. It is pretty normal for me to get 3 hours of sleep each day. It's pretty normal for me to sit down and drink a half a gallon of Hennessy each day. It's pretty normal for me to do that. Until somebody, which was my sister, who's never served in the military, she read about PTSD. And she looked at me and she said, "You need help." And I said, "No, I don't. I could drink this by myself." She literally grabbed me by the hand and took me to the nearest VA hospital, where I have already registered and registered my men, but had no idea what was wrong with me until I got there. They gave me, I guess, what do you call it that haven't been approved yet? They gave me what they call a monkey drug.
Right.
Okay, and it made me worse. When I went back up there again, the doctor that I saw, me and him had some words because he'd never served in the military. He had no idea what was wrong with me. I requested someone who has. And that's when I got the help that I need because I wouldn't leave until I got it. And the little gun my sister had helped out. She wouldn't let me leave until I got help. So it's all about who cares.
That's another important message that you bring out to anybody who's watching this. If you're family of a veteran and you identify this, you can get help for him. You can get him help.
Yep.
You can bring him to any of the organizations. And I know I've seen Paul do it dozens of times where he'd take somebody under his wing and he'd get them help only because the family member had advised him that he's going down the wrong path.
Yep.
And he doesn't know he's going down the wrong path. He thinks everything's, like you said, hunky-dory.
Yes.
But it's not. But it's not, and he's ready to crash, and we can help prevent that crash. Okay?
Soft landings.
Yes, Wes.
I've met a lot of veterans in my daily walks in life. And, those that served, Vietnam, or Iraq, Afghanistan. I hear this term, they need, the ones that are coming home now, they need it more than I do.
Nah.
And that eats me up inside. Because the benefit is there for them just like it is for everybody else, because it's written in the Constitution, because Abraham Lincoln put it in there. But I don't know what it takes to convince these veterans that the entitlement is there for them. But the thing is, they need to go after it.
Yes.
Because it's not gonna fall on your lap.
They're not going to force you to do it.
No.
Yeah.
See, another Vietnam veteran told me that I was messed up.
Yeah.
One who been trials and tribulations. He was already in PTSD treatment, and he told me I was messed up. Like you said, he thinks it's someone who's been there
Exactly.
to tell you that you are messed up.
I've had people tell me that you gotta let them hit bottom before they can look for help and come
And
up.
I hit bottom.
But
I don't think you need
I
to
don't,
get
I
that
don't
far.
agree with that. I don't think we should let them hit bottom. If we could stop it at a 30% mark, and you got a better chance of saving them then. Yes, Wes.
One of my greatest joys for the past 2 years is that I reconnected with about 8 Marines that I served in Vietnam with 49, 50 years ago. Some of them don't even have a clue about VA benefits,
Yeah.
which I enlightened them on that.
Right.
And they're working on getting their stuff together. I've even helped some go from 0 to 100%. In different states, because they might have lived in New York or they might be in these other states, but I've been able to provide them information. And it's all on the website. Well, you got to go to www.va.gov,
That's it.
YouTube, Google. And the other thing is, a lot of veterans are being treated on the outside from outside doctors, which could be service-connected as a result of their military service,
And they're not
Exactly.
and they don't even know that they can apply for compensation
Right,
to get their entitlement.
that's right.
It's there for you, but you have to want it.
Yeah, because it's like, what was it, 2010, 2011 when I came to you? And I got information from Paul by being in the VFW, American Legion on its own. And it was around that time that I went to my stepfather. And I asked my stepfather, I said, what kind of benefits are you getting from the VA? He looked at me, that's exactly it. He said, VA? I can't go to the VA. I said, well, why not? He said, because I'm not a veteran. I said, wasn't you in Vietnam? He said, yeah. I said, you're a veteran.
He didn't realize it.
He'd never realized it because he was just like most soldiers. He came home, nobody told him anything.
Yep.
And all these years he went through his life, almost 80 years of his life, he felt like he had nothing.
Nothing, yeah.
Until I went down to VA with him. They Social Security number, that's all you need. They pulled up his entire military record. Like you were saying about going down and he did that when he came home. So he was in there, but he never knew the benefits that he had. And they're sitting there waiting for him. Until this day, he'd sit down there and ask me questions.
It's only too sad if you think back. I had a plethora of family that served in World War II. All of these guys that came back after World War II knew nothing about benefits, knew nothing about getting help, and they suffered through what they had left of their lives without getting the help that they were entitled to. So that's a sad state, and I never want to see that happen again.
Right.
That's why I want to see everybody from Vietnam, Korea, Iraq, Afghanistan, get their benefits. Yes, Wes.
Another one is an environmental exposure,
Yep.
environmental hazards that a lot of veterans are suffering from, and they don't know where these symptoms came from, but they need to get themselves tested and diagnosed, for these conditions that they are being
lot-
treated for
Right.
from the outside.
We were talking about, you were mentioning how long it takes sometimes, for somebody to realize they have the benefits. I was telling you the story earlier. I have a guy that is my drummer on my CD, Tony Bennett's best friend for 73 years. Great guy, Angelo Ferrara. And he met me one night when I was singing, and somebody told me, he said, you might want to talk to Robert about benefits. It was one of my greatest, I call it a success story, because I couldn't believe, just like you were mentioning, they had no idea, World War II vet, Just came home, hey, I'm happy to be home again, that's it. I got him, at first, when I started doing his case, I got him an award. It wasn't a percentage, it was just an award they call it. And he went up from like $800 a month to about $1,150 a month. 7 months later, he had PTSD. He was a combat medic, internment, Graves Registry, he's seen it all. He put body parts back together in these places. So obviously, he's a man that definitely deserves the rating of a PTSD victim. So eventually, they gave him a rating of 50%, and I was so happy. After 60, at that time it was 66 years, that this great American from the great generation got his due, finally. Not 100%, but he lives his life really great now. And the story behind that is never, ever give up. And always, like I was saying before, listen to the other veterans. When you put your paperwork in, you're going to get something back every once in a while. There's a little tiny gray line that goes across. I never seen it. I wasn't looking for it when I was putting my claims in. For all those years, it took me 13 years to get my 100% disability. And I try this and that, and I really never looked at that. You ever heard that expression, the gray area? That was the gray area. Nobody even looked at it. It was such a pale gray, and it says, you have 30 days or 60 days or 120 days
appeal.
to resubmit this appeal. I never looked at it. I was just looking, did I get my benefits? Did I get my benefits? You don't look at that. You got to be aware, and you got to always keep going at it. Never give up. Never give up.
And what these two gentlemen do, it's just phenomenal. I referred individuals to Wesley to get their award started. And I went, in less than 2 years, I got my 100%. Just by someone showing me the way.
Every case is different.
Yes.
Every case is
Well,
right,
this has been
for years.
This has been probably one of the best shows I've ever done for veterans. I'm honored to have everybody here to participate, and that's about the fastest hour I ever saw go by. The whole hour was sitting there talking, and
Still got
it
more to
just-
say.
Yeah, still got a lot more to say. We may have
more
to
to
do this
say.
all over again.
Story never
I
ends.
thank you.
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
No Tuesdays.
We got to save a date for the Dan Lears because they're coming in for do another show.
There you go.
Yeah, okay. We'll invite all the veterans.
The show is in honor of, today's show is dedicated to all African Americans in honor of Black History Month. It's especially devoted to all African American veterans and all veterans, not just African American, all veterans, and thanking them for their service and thanking them for all that they've done for this wonderful country that we live in. And I thank you gentlemen so much. You just keep watching in honor of. We're going to be bringing a lot more shows at you. Probably be back here with the same panel